Enlightenment is a word that gets thrown around a lot when you go into the mindfulness space. And you're always left wondering what it actually means. Is that knowing a lot of things, just, ghaib, as we call it in Arabic? Is it about knowing the unknown? Or is it just the voodoo bullshit where the people who are enlightened will tell you that you won't really understand what being enlightened means until you're enlightened? So you would never know what you're actually looking for, but all you'll ever hear is ambiguous statements of do this, do that, and you end up chasing something that you'll never get because you didn't really understand the concept of enlightenment. Do I understand what enlightenment means? Not really. But apparently, this guy does. And let's see what he has to say. I've mentioned this before on this channel, which is you are not your mind. Your mind is an organ of your body. Watch the thinker that is in there. Watch your mind do things. I'm saying these different things and these sound very confusing to you, how there's me and my mind. Get it? So what do I mean when I say watch the thinker? Or what does Eckhart Tolle mean in his book Power of Now when he says watch the thinker? So you are this entity, the soul in the body, which uses the body, the mind, and all these other organs to do the things that you want to do in life. But often what happens is that you don't really understand this division in your head. People don't really understand the fact that they can control their minds, but what ends up happening is that the minds end up controlling them. This constant thought, this thinking cycle that goes on without conscious thought, without conscious intent. First, I want you to understand watching your mind. So you're sitting there and you've got all these thoughts going on in your head, and you usually end up identifying yourself with those thoughts, with those ideas, with whatever is going on in your head. That's what you usually identify yourself with. Some people might need a little bit more concentration to be able to do this. What you can do is you can sit back and you're gonna let the mind run wild. You're gonna sit there and be the watcher. You're not gonna resist. You're just gonna sit there and watch it and see what all thoughts it can generate. So you are detaching yourself from the thoughts. You're someone who's spectating the mind generating these thoughts. When you are watching those thoughts, you realize that you didn't really intend for those thoughts to be there, rather just happen to be some kind of automatic mechanism by which random thoughts are generating, or maybe sometimes there's a pattern for it. You never really were able to watch it from behind, think, why is there different kinds of thoughts in my head? Why is there all these patterns emerging from those thoughts, negative and positive patterns, depending on how you lived your life all this time? That is the first step to understanding that you are not your mind. There is another statement from the book which says, the act of noticing that you're not conscious, it by itself is an act of consciousness. So now that you understand that you are not your mind, you are not your thoughts, and you are not the things that pop up in your head, but something separate from it, someone who can watch what that mind does. Now that you understood that, you'll be able to understand other things such as emotions, ego, pain body, things like that. And also, I will not be able to go that much depth as in this book. So I would recommend you to read this book. I've read it already and I'm rereading it because it's such a good book. Now let's talk about emotions. According to this book, emotions are the reflections on your body about what's happening in the mind, in the subconscious realm, basically. Emotions are in the body. Feelings are in the body, not in the mind. If you had the consciousness to be able to notice when you had all these kinds of emotions and feelings before, like anger. You might have noticed that it manifests itself in the body. When you're angry, your heart starts pumping blood, and you feel the anger in your body, and the mind reacts according to the body. How do you detach yourself from these emotions? The first step is to understand that the emotions are not up here, but down here in the body. Because once you understand that emotions are in your body, not your head, you start to understand the fact that you don't really have to follow what the body tells you to, because the body is dumb. When your body tells you that you're angry, you don't really have to follow up on that. You don't have to start doing something that makes you angry, really. It's something that an angry person would do. You don't really have to follow on that. You don't have to do that because you are a being which is about that. You can control your actions. You don't have to follow orders of the body, which went through all this evolution and survival mechanisms, which forces it to take a fight or flight response. But you don't have to follow that. It not only translates to uh, sadness, other emotions like love and other emotions. Because if your body feels love, you don't really have to follow up on that, because you can use the mind to judge it and understand and make a decision whether you have to follow up on the cues given by the body. So body is emotions for you. Ego is also another unmanifested self of the mind. It's just another being that exist in your head. It's another identity. That all these things, these emotions, this mind, this ego, this pain body, everything, the problem with you not realizing that you're an entity about that is that you try to identify with each thing. When emotions come, you try to identify with those emotions. When ego takes over, you try to identify with the ego, and the ego makes decisions because you let it control, you let it dictate your life. And that's why we're understanding the different aspects, so that you don't really have to follow orders from someone else. Thing about the ego is that the ego is very delicate. It gets hurt often, so it is often linked to some of the pain you've experienced in the past, most possibly. If you notice yourself letting the ego take over, you notice that it's mostly when the ego doesn't want to be, for example, disrespected. And this is the case for a lot of arrogant people. And I have mentioned arrogance in a video before, and you might have noticed me saying it, that being wrong means death to ego. That's why arrogance exists. So if you notice the patterns of the ego, it is a bit more difficult than just watching your thoughts. Being able to monitor your actions when you go through with life, it's kind of a bit more complicated than just watching your thoughts, but you will build up these abilities as you move forward in the consciousness journey. And I can't really dive deeper into ego because there is limitations to my understandings of ego, because I think I myself struggle with it and I'm working on it. But this is me giving cues for you also to enter this journey and try to fix it. And the next thing is the pain body. And I've already recorded a video on pain. But the point I'm trying to make is that the point he tried to make was that most of the pain, or all of the pain, is self inflicted. Most of human pain is self inflicted. So, what does it mean? It means that if you choose to not suffer, if you choose to let go of an aspect of your mind, of your subconscious, of something that happened to you in the past, if you learn to let go of those things, you will be able to relieve yourself of the pain that you're carrying, of the weight that is on your chest. And the beauty about being able to let go of the pain is that once you start reducing that pain from your life, you will be able to experience life to a more fuller experience. You will be able to smell things better. You will be able to see things for what they actually are. And you will be able to be more creative. All these things, all this understanding, all this consciousness is so that you can live a life which is more full than the one that you're living right now. For everyone out there searching for what's their purpose in life, maybe it is for you to ponder, and you can't do it with a cloudy head, ego in mind, and all these stupid things that's walking in your head. That's for you to ponder, and that's going to be difficult if you don't understand the divisions in the head and being able to process things regardless will be your key to unlocking enlightenment, which I am also on the journey. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and I would highly, highly recommend you to read this book. This is excellent. This is like, it says the guide to spiritual enlightenment. So I was at the hospital before going in for a surgery, a knee surgery, which I will talk about in another video. And I sat there and I read it, and I felt like, okay, this is something that I've been looking for a long time, and I haven't found it, but now I have. I want you to read this book because it's awesome. You can click here somewhere for another video that will question the patterns of the mind, and you can comment down below and help me help us build a community of people with the same goals as you, as me, as the people down there. And I'll see you in another video. Peace.